get cozied up to technology over the years because of the online thing. It is what it is. So let me let these people in. Welcome everybody that are coming in here. Some are coming in by phone. And we have a lot of information today. I'm gonna try and get through it really quickly, like within 30 minutes. It'll be good information. If you have any questions, I know I have a lot of questions, a lot of great questions that Neil relayed over to me from many of you. And there's a lot of them, like I said, 40, 50, something like that. So I'm gonna do my best to really get through those quickly. Obviously, I'm not gonna be able to go through them in depth, but if you have any questions after this, feel free to reach out and email me at Joey, Joey, like Joey from Friends, at hittingperformancelab.com. And I'll have that at the end of this too, so you don't have to worry about download it into your brain. But if you got any questions, please, and I don't answer them, have them ready. All right, I think you can see me adding them here. Okay, so as they come in, we'll add them. So today we're going to be going over something that about 2012, towards the end of 2012, is when my son, who's now going to be turning 8 in 3 days, when he was born, and the wifey was doing the midnight, every 2 hours, 3-hour milk feedings. And I had a book called Anatomy Trains by Thomas Myers. Same last name, and I'm sure on the family tree we are related in some way, but I don't know him like I would know my brother or my uncle or anything like that. But Thomas Myers' book, Anatomy Trains, was something that really changed everything, how I teach hitting and how I'm going to teach hitting, and you'll hopefully get to see a little bit of that in this presentation. So again, welcome. Thank you again, Neil, for putting this thing on and keeping you all ready to go, and hopefully we can get a lot of this information in. And if you got to go, we're going to record this, so don't worry. We will get that out. I'll get the recording out to Neil, and he can get it out to you guys. So let's get going. So this is the seminar, teleseminar, whatever you want to call it, how to teach 100-pound hitters to consistently drive the ball 300 feet. And this was something that I didn't just cook up and create a product and go. It was actually, this came to me with the results that my hitters were getting. And hitters were soon to be what other coaches were learning and were applying with their hitters. So again, brought to you by Hitting Performance Lab. That's my website. And then you got Neil over at Max BP. One of my favorite quotes is by Ralph Waldo Emerson. Maybe you might know that gentleman. As to the methods, there are many, or there may be a million and then some, but principles are few. The man who grasps principles can successfully select his own methods. The man who tries methods ignoring principles is sure to have trouble. Now, this is an important quote because it distinguishes between methods and principles. Principles are rules. Think about playing Monopoly. You got to know the rules of the game before you can play the game. The principles to hitting can come in the form of biomechanics, physics, engineering. Those are the principles that we tend to stick with. See here, we need some. And then what we're going to move this out of the way here. What we're going to be talking about today, case studies, why legs fail and spinal engine succeeds in the power equation, discover the springy fascia secret, how to turn the spine into a safe ball crushing machine. We were talking about this with Neil. I talked to him yesterday on the phone. He was having some back pain with his baseball golf swing, and we'll see if we can get to that in this, but I really want to focus on more the power side. But we want to make sure the swing is safe, so we'll talk about that. But before we get there, let some more people in here. Probably should have had Neil do this. That's all right. And then get these guys. Great. Thank you for joining, everybody. All right. The first question usually when you go to a wedding is, how do you know the bride? How do you know the groom? So how do I know Max BP? Well, it first started with the Sandlot Slugger, and then Max BP acquired Sandlot Slugger, and that's where we connected, and I connected with Neil. And that's probably been, I don't know, Neil can probably say on this, 5, 7 years ago maybe that this happened. And is that about right, Neil?
Yeah, that sounds right.
About right.
We've been around about 11 years. Sandlot Slugger ran probably about 14 years ago. So
Yeah, it's been a
somewhere
while.
in that mix.
Yeah. And I know them because we started the startinglineupstore.com, or I started it back in 2010. And I was grouping a lot of the hitting aids that I really love to work with my hitters that are proven, whether it's through science or just data. And Max BP, Sandlot Slugger at the time, the Max BP is one of those hitting aids. I call them the best hitting aids in the world or on the planet. So that's how I know Neil and Max BP. I played 4 years Division I baseball at Fresno State from 2003. Just want to give just a little bit. I'm going to probably rush through this because I know most of you are, okay, whatever. Just cut to the chase. But I think some of you that don't know me would be good to just take a gloss over 15 plus years in the corrective exercise industry. And those are some of the alphabet soup that I have certification wise. What's funny is in college, I was a criminology major, and I really fell in love with kinesiology. I wish if I did it over again, that's what I would have done, but I'm mostly self-taught. I used to train people. I wrote a 2018 Amazon best-selling book, Catapult Loading System, and that's the title of this. Let me see here. Did I lose that? There we go. How to teach 100-pound hitters how to consistently drive the ball 300 feet. And that started really me on this journey of that this stuff really works, because you really start to get in with a lot of other coaches reteaching the same information, and you really get to see how this stuff, it's not just me and my hitters or my magic or whatever, but other coaches are able to do the same thing. And I'll have a cool little bonus for you guys, free bonus, that you can grab this book at no cost on Amazon. So at the end of this, we'll talk about that. All right. And then we'll get a couple more of these, about almost 330,000 online courses, lessons, and books, products sold online. Over 330 free blog posts at hittingperformancelab.com, giving away over 8,500 copies of Amazon best-selling book. We apply, this is the last of this. We apply human movement principles that are validated by science to hitting a ball. Like I mentioned, I played 4 years of Division I baseball at Fresno State. I didn't play pro ball, didn't play major league ball, but I played probably more than 95 to 98% of the baseball population. But I don't say that to brag. I say that most of the teaching that I teach has nothing to do with how I was taught. I do use some of that stuff. I do use some of the cues and different things like that in certain circumstances. But most of my stuff, if not all of it, is validated by science. And the other thing that we talk about is I'm working on a new book that's going to be published. We're working on January, February of 2021. And it's called Swing Smarter, Science-Based Hitting Training, built to understand how, why, and the reasoning behind it. So those are all things that we stand for and set us apart from a lot of the others that you've probably read, heard, watched out there, purchased their products, watched their YouTube videos. So let's get started. Case studies. So the only reason, I'm not here to brag, and I could give you 100 other ones, but I want to give you an example, since Neil talked about that there's a huge smattering of different people on this call. There are parents that are just coaching their kids. There's team coaches that are coaching a group of kids from 14 to probably 30 plus in high school, professional. And there are instructors out there like myself. There are probably academy owners out there. So I just want to put it up front on the people that we help and how these human movement principles that are validated by science can help anybody. So I have 14U 130-pound hitter that was driving the ball 385 feet. And by the way, that was with a hickory wood bat. That wasn't the hot metals that everybody says, oh, they always try and explain these case studies away. And this particular hitter, he is going to, I think it's Texas Tech. He got a full ride to Texas Tech. Hudson White is his name. I do have a blog post on him that is featured on my blog, but he's one of them. 10U, 67-pound hitter at the time, soaking wet. And I think that 67 pounds, he had eaten a Costco chocolate muffin that I think after he went to the doctor to get that measurement or something like that. So he might have even been easy 65 pounds before eating that muffin. But he was hitting the ball 180 plus feet. And this is consistent. This isn't just a one flash in the pan time. 90-pound hitter driving the ball 300 feet. D1 college fast pitch softball player. She was at Fresno State. in a summer. Now with softball, because the ball's bigger, many of you know in softball, obviously, and in baseball, you should know, bigger softball, heavier, more mass, and to gain 10 miles an hour in one summer in 2.5 months is a big deal. And that's what she did. A lot of hard work. I always tell my hitters that I'm just the compass and the flashlight in the dark. You have to walk the path. I don't have to walk the path for you. I've done that on my own. I've walked the path plenty of times, but now it's the hitters that have to do that. So they are 90% of this. I'm just the 10% that gives them the right direction to go. So she put a lot of hard work in that summer, and she gained 10 miles an hour in ball exit speed hitting a softball. We have an indie baseball player. He was pretty much out, came to me, and in 1 hour, we increased, obviously, baseball plus 10 miles per hour in ball exit speed. Now, those things, when they gain that much, the reason why is because the principles we're going to talk about today, the consistently power principles, they were almost non-existent in their swing. If you have a hitter who it's non-existent, you're going to see these big gains. If you see hitters that have maybe a couple of these or one of these, you're not going to see that kind of a gain just because they're not starting from zero. Okay, so I want you to understand that. This isn't the norm. It's only not the norm when somebody's starting from zero, but it's pretty close. It's between 6 and 10 miles an hour ball exit speed when they're starting from zero is what I tend to see. 55-year-old slow pitch softball optometrist, online lesson, and he's working with me and doing pretty well. I don't have any gains on that side of it, but it's interesting. And the 71-year-old senior league baseball player, I worked with him this week. He came up, he read my book. He said, I love it makes sense. Love what you wrote. A lot of the other books I've read are hard to understand. He's an attorney, by the way. So attorneys usually are really into that jargon, but he picked it up, said, I love it. Can I come up? He's from Ojai in California. He drove up about 3.5 hours for 2 days. We worked, and we increased his ball exit speed by 9 miles an hour in 1 hour. So the first day, we really hit a couple of these principles hard the first day, and he gained 9 miles an hour. Plus, he had a little bit of back pain when we first started, and we got rid of it in his swing. So again, that's something maybe we'll talk about if you guys want me to. And again, I've worked with major leaguers, whether it's in person or they bought my courses, and we've talked online through some of this stuff. Professional hitters I've worked with in person, college, JUCO, high school, junior high school, little league, and senior league. So this goes across the board. It doesn't matter what level they're at. These principles work. Whether they're male or female, they work. It doesn't matter. Human to human is basically what it works for. And if you want to get a lot of the testimonials, and that's just probably, I think it's 50 to 100 of them on my website. I have more. I just have been lazy to get them up. But if you go to hittingperformancelab.com, and I think the about is if you scroll all the way down into the footer, you'll see the about page, and you can click that, read a little bit about me, and then scroll down, and there's a ton of testimonials there. So you can go check out more of those. All right, enough of that. Let's start to transition. Why the legs fail and spinal engine succeeds in the power equation. Learning principles from water polo. Maybe those of you out there have had kids that played water polo or have had hitters that have played water polo. I have cousins and hitters that also did it. And the idea came to me. I ran an experiment where I wanted to have my pelvis facing forward. I was using a knob tracker like a ZEP on my knob. For those of you, blast motion, same thing, swing tracker. And I was facing my hips forward, but I was just turning my upper body to be able to hit the ball. And the experiment didn't really turn out real well, but I tried to do it because my mobility in my spine or my shoulders and my pelvis weren't allowing me to actually do the experiment like I should. So then we had the backspin tee guys. I'm really good friends with them since I met them. They did an experiment where they were jumping up and hitting a ball off the tee, dropping off of a chair, hitting a ball before they hit the ground. And they were doing a couple different experiments like that. And what they found was when their feet weren't on the ground and they were just using their shoulders and their thoracic spine, their middle of their spine, that their base, when they had their feet on the ground, ball exit speeds, they had single A ball players, they had indies, a rookie ball, they had golfers that are hitting the ball 300 plus yards, or 400 yards actually now. And they had a 8-year professional pitcher who hits pretty well too. They were doing the experiment, and they found that about 90 miles an hour was their normal control when their feet were on the ground. But when they were jumping up hitting, or when they were falling down and hitting and doing their other things, trying to take the lower half out of the equation, that their ball exit speeds were about were about 80%, 70 to 80% of what their control was, which was interesting. So they were about 60 to 70 miles an hour versus the 90 with their feet on the ground. So it got me thinking. And then somebody said, well, that's not a good experiment because, if you really wanted to do this, you had to hang from a harness where your feet or you're hanging and then you hit it like that. It's like, well, who's going to do that unless you got access to a harness like that, maybe at a farm or whatever. So I was thinking, okay, well, what athletes do throw or hit or whatever from that kind of a position? So I did a blog post and it was titled, "Is rotating back hip through the ball necessary for power?" So think about this thought experiment. Now, from what I know, I don't know if anybody's actually done this. I'm probably have to do this next summer. But think about that. The fastest water polo throw, if you Googled it, what do you think? Just, you don't have to raise your hand or whatever, but what do you think that speed of that water polo ball, as you can see the size of that ball is like a volleyball, Croatian Olympic water polo male athlete, 60 miles an hour. So as you could see, floating in water, they're not going down to the bottom and pushing up. They're floating in water. So the lower half is minimal to almost zero friction with the lower half. So you're not able to use the lower half like you are when you're standing on land, 60 miles an hour. So think about the pitcher who is going down the mound. Is going down the mound. They got gravity. They got access to everything. Fastest pitcher, let's just round it up to 100 miles an hour. So 100 miles an hour on flat ground, falling down a mound, is the fastest pitch. I know 102, 103, we can argue, but say 100, easy numbers. So that water polo throw is throwing a big ball. So that's going to have an effect. Now, what happens if we put in that Croatian male Olympic water polo player, athlete, we put a baseball in his hand, have him floating in water, and have him throw that baseball as hard as he can? What do you think that speed's going to be? It's going to be a lot faster than 60 miles an hour, I can tell you. So is it going to be, instead of 60, is he going to throw it 70? Is he going to throw it 80 miles an hour? Let's be conservative and just say 70 miles an hour. So you're telling me in water, the fastest water polo thrower throws a baseball 70 miles an hour, while on land, the fastest pitcher throws 100 miles an hour. So again, easy numbers, 70%, we can say, maybe conclude that without ground reaction forces, that 70% of that velocity is coming from the pelvis, spine, and shoulder combination. Without ground reaction forces, are very minimal when we're in the pool. So I say the spinal engine is responsible for about 70 to 80% of the power equation, and the lower half, the legs and ground reaction forces, is responsible for the other 20 to 30%. That's what I say. So keep that in mind as we talk through this spinal engine system. So do you recognize some of these hitters? Some of them have changed unis, or one of them at least. Mookie Betts, he's on the Dodgers now. Nolan Arenado's in the middle. Mike Trout. Okay, notice the pinstripe on the side of their leg and how it connects up into the belt. Notice the positioning of where that is. Pelvis is already starting to open. All these hitters are at toe touch or pretty close to toe touch. Notice the numbers on their back. Now the righties, because the camera in the major leagues isn't straight on center field because you got to see the pitcher and the hitter, so it's slightly off center towards left, okay? So your righties, you're going to see probably more numbers than you would see lefties doing the same degree of rotation. So this started off as showing numbers is what we called it. And we'll talk in a little bit how we've refined it to creating neck pressure. But notice these. And then these hitters, so swing experiments, results of the big three. So the first of the big three is showing numbers. When I use the ZEP back in the day, now ZEP is turned in, Blast Motion is taken over in Swing Tracker. So when I did about 2-3 experiments showing numbers, we found that out of 100 swings not showing numbers and 100 swings showing numbers, that bat speed was increased on average by 4 to 6 miles an hour. That's bat speed. Bat speed is the close cousin to ball exit speed. They aren't the same, but they're like first cousins. So without bat speed, ball exit speed probably is not going to be there. We got to be able to swing the bat somewhat hard in order to get the ball coming off the bat as fast. Here are 3 others.
The Hitting Performance Lab wants to know, did you know repeatable hitting power does not start in the hips? Have you heard the expressions, load and explode the hips? Power comes from the hips. Well, we created a free video revealing the results of a scientific study that will show you how we added 48 feet of batted ball distance instantly. And it's not all about the hips. Click here now to get the video while it's still free.